Welcome to Soul Astrology with Christine and Laura. We're going to be talking all about the fifth house today in your natal chart or in the zodiac chart.
Find the image.
It's really interesting because this morning I sent Laura, I was sitting out on the patio and I snapped a picture of the sun. And the way the sun was shining just through the branches of the trees, it was egg-shaped. And I thought to myself, it's all about creativity and like the egg, like birthing something. So
Uniqueness, right? Being
yeah.
yourself without being boxed into any form.
Hmm.
And that is the fifth house.
Yes. Passion and creativity.
Being playful.
Hmm.
And also kids, your creations, not just like business and art and but also your kids as a part of being your creation.
Hmm. So it's ruled by Leo. So it's not surprising that the king is the archetype or the symbol of this. And the idea of I will, it's what you will into being, what you put out into the world. Do you want to add anything to that, or do you want to just go straight into the ruling sign, which we just covered?
Yeah, I think the fifth house is the house where you have the space to be yourself and also navigate that journey of finding who you are. It sometimes it's not very clear, this is me, but it gives you the space for you to find out who you are. Like, do you like to dance? Do you like to paint? Um, do you like to exercise? So everything that have to do with you finding uh, yourself, also what you have to give to the world, what is that you create that you can offer to the world. um, and I think opening also, as you create and you give, finding your own joy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I keep getting the word spark, which, what sparks joy in you? What is the spark that kind of lights you up? And the sun is the ruling planet. So it really makes sense. In the past, when I've done readings on people's charts, I did get the sense too that this could represent not just if you have children and the creation of that, but it's also the inner child, right? Because it's that core, innocent, playful, creative being that you are. And that to me, sometimes in people's charts reads also with the inner child.
Yeah, and it's also the house of dating. Before the relationship gets
Yes.
serious, because then you move to the seventh. But you know that time of dating and getting ready for the date and getting to know the other person and all that playfulness that happen on first dates, all
Mm-hmm.
happens in the fifth house.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
very fun house, depending of what planets you have there and what zodiac sign is ruling it. It's supposed to be the house of self-expression, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Should I move to the
Yeah.
next one?
So let's just say that the element is fire, which we kind of already spoke to, and the quality is fixed.
Mhm.
And in future videos, we're going to be coming back and we're going to be covering the elements and all of that, in case you're a little confused by that. All right, so areas of expression. We've touched on these as usual a little bit in our introduction already, but there's this idea of passion. Passion in what you create, passion in how you engage in the world, expressing your passions.
Passion of how you live life.
Mhm. It's also the house of creativity. So for me, I like to write. So sometimes for me, I associate the third house, which is the mind and communication, with creativity. But that's, I think, because of who I am and how I like to express myself. But this truly is the house where you look at to see how you are a creative person and in what ways you are empowered or maybe challenged in your creativity. Laura mentioned that this is children, and I just brought in the inner child aspect of this. Um, Entertainment, so maybe dating, but also kind of what you like to do in your free time, kind of, how you spend your pleasure time.
Yeah, your hobbies.
Yep. Romance, Again, this is lighthearted romance. This is not, that deep committed romance. This is kind of just experiencing a relationship with another person on a romantic level. Self-expression. So it's interesting because the first thing that comes to mind for me with self-expression is the way you dress and the way you present yourself to the world. But I feel like that could also be with Taurus or wherever Venus is in your house. But it can also be just this idea of, so the sun is that expression of self anyway in your chart, right? And the sun is the planet that rules Leo, that governs the fifth house, right? So it's this kind of radiating out of who you are, this idea of self-expression. You want to add anything, Laura?
It goes back to me with finding the self.
Mhm,
And this is the process of finding the self, and then the idea of having the courage to express that self. Um,
mhm,
yeah, it's a lot about, like, for me, it's this deep search of figuring what I like, what I want to do with my life,
mhm,
how I feel that I'm being me,
mhm,
what things I like to do, and what things I don't like to do. And
mhm,
at the beginning, I think everything is there for us to choose, and with time, we start defining and creating, like, oh, this is what I like. I will set more time for this, and this is not something that interests me, so I'm gonna start saying no to this. So it's a process of finding the self for me.
mhm. It's also too for me this rediscovery. So with this idea of the child in this house and the inner child, right? We always talk about kids and how they are so honest with who they are. And if they don't like something, they don't like something. And if they want to do something that's fun to them, like coloring or drawing, they'll find lots of time to do that. And they're uninhibited in that. And it's just this innate knowing of who they are, what they like, what they don't, and just expressing that. And I think as we age, we're taught to suppress that. So, in a way, it's a rediscovery of the innate person that you are, like that innocent, unsuppressed, I don't even know if that's a word, person, individual that you are, that you were when you came onto this planet. And I think that's maybe part of what you're talking about too, that rediscovery of self, stripping away all of those rules and all those expectations and all the shoulds and should nots.
For me, for example, I love to paint.
Mhm,
And I spent many hours painting when I was young. But then with time, you have to, get a good grades. You have to use your time for other things. And sometimes you have people in your family saying that's a waste of time. Get serious, do other things. So as I'm aging, I'm rediscovering my connection with colors. So for me, it's not the activation of the fifth house. It's just like, well, there were times in my life that I couldn't do it, but now that I have the time, this is me, this is what I like to do, and I don't care. I'm not having expectations what's going to happen with my painting. It's just enjoying myself in the connection between me and the colors,
mhm,
and without expecting anything from the world. It's me pouring something that just flows. And it's
mhm,
personal, very personal. It what makes me happy.
mhm.
At that point, I'm not expecting to achieve anything with it.
I want to point out too, just because I'm looking ahead and I'm seeing arts is the next word. And I did a workshop one time and I remember saying something to the effect of teaching for me as a creative outlet. Maybe not something that my inner child did, although I think I did. I had a classroom and I had my teddy bears and my chalkboard and I would take extra worksheets. So,
There you go.
teacher. um, but I think someone was surprised because when you say creativity, everyone automatically thinks the arts. But creative expression can take any form that you express yourself in your own unique way. So again, coming back to the way you dress or um, maybe even the way that you parent is unique to you. It's different to you, and you really enjoy engaging with your children and exposing them to new things, and spending time with them, and that's your creative output, or cooking, or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be just the arts, which is our next word.
Yeah, I
And
can imagine someone with a Pisces ruling this house that they would like to spend time in the ocean, close to
Mhm,
the ocean, watching the ocean.
mhm,
And that is their, expression. How
mhm,
that's their connection. That is for them being themselves and finding a meaning for
mhm,
being here and a purpose, a personal purpose, I
mhm,
think. And for me, I just want to share this is kind of personal, but mine is ruled by Taurus, and Taurus have to do with the body. I love having massages, so body
mhm,
massage, and that's when really times fly. It's just like for me, it's a treat. It's
mhm,
something very very special, and
mhm,
more I'm starting to honor that.
mhm.
I
So
might not care
that
about shoes, but yes, about massages. That's figuring who I
that's
am and going for what is important to me.
yes. So that's kind of the next word that's on our list, is fun. What's fun for you? Um, and again, because we're coming back to this idea of the inner child and the innocent child before it's impacted by what the world tells it, fun can be anything that's fun for you. Anything. So really try and connect with that, letting go of thinking, oh, what will people think if I express myself this way, or if I find this fun? And it really is, to me, it's a very personal house now, thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
Although it is the interaction, the fun with another too, where the last word, casual sex and affairs and things like that. But it really is very personal to you, very unique to you.
Yeah, it can be interacting with others, but it's from your point of view with your needs as a priority. It's
Mhm.
not equal. I think we get equal when we move to the seventh house, but with the fifth house, everybody is there outside, but what it matters is how you
About
interact
you.
with them. It's
Mhm.
about you. They're just like characters playing for you.
Yes.
That's why we're talking casual sex and romance because it's really not something equal where both people are at the same level. It's how you have fun with the other person and
Yeah.
you are the priority.
Mhm. Which makes total sense for a Leo.
But
And so,
thinking about it, it's so important to connect with this house because in a way, activating the sun is in a way activating your presence here on earth, the light that you irradiate. And
mhm,
that is so important because that's what the world needs, your own unique light.
mhm,
Nobody else has that light. So every time that we activate ourselves and share who we are bringing an aspect of the divine that only us can bring.
yes. And if you and we haven't gotten to this point yet either, but if you want to add another additional information, like another layer of information, if your natal sun isn't in the fifth house, so say it's in the ninth house, then whatever aspects of the ninth house are kind of the themes of the ninth house, they kind of add more information and maybe onto this creativity and shining your light and expressing who you are, just to look ahead a little bit. All right, so we did arts, fun, affairs, and casual sex. So now we'll do each of the signs and how they express themselves in the fifth house. So again, it's the themes are children, passion, and creativity. And in for each of the signs, we kind of tried to address each of those themes in the same order. So for Aries in the fifth house, with children, they can be protective, assertive, but also a little bit impatient. So for me, I'm seeing this and I'm also thinking it could be about their own creativity, right? That they are also, or about their own passions. So they can feel these same things, like an impatience of trying to get out what you want to get out, or wanting to get to it right away and not wanting to take time, right? Aries wants to get things done now.
For me, the Aries energy is an energy that perhaps doesn't have a whole plan, but know that it needs to be put out there right now. So
Mhm.
might not have the whole plan or how it's gonna end or from here where we're going, but it's that impulse to make it happen right away.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's that assertiveness too. It's kind of like having that confidence. Like we don't need to know the whole plan. Let's just get started. They can handle it. We can figure it out as we go along. As astrologers, you and as a human, you can only interpret the world based on your own experiences. So us defining Aries as risk takers, that comes from Sagittarian and Capricorn and Aquarius energies. So they would not describe themselves that way, I don't think.
No, but they might see everybody like moving or taking so long to make a
Yeah, why
decision.
are you hesitating? Like, let's just go
Exactly.
and do it.
So obvious, just let's do it now and waiting for others to make the
Yes,
decision. A
but
waste of time.
again, it's so much fun to do this and to look at astrology because you see how other people work in ways that you don't necessarily usually take to time to think about it or to observe, right? And you start to take these aspects of, oh, I could really use more Aries energy in this part of my life. And if they look at it that way, what could be the harm if maybe I need to just jump in and start doing these creative things and seeing what happens? What's the harm? So I think astrology is really cool when it comes to things like that too.
Yeah, and also brings a lot of understanding and healing because when you connect with the person and you understand how that person sees the world or feels the world or uh, sense the world, and you start seeing, oh, now I understand why she or he did that or why he act that way. And
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not exactly the way you want it to happen, you still have an understanding of why that person is doing it that way. And I think it brings peace, it brings healing sometimes in relationships because you
Yeah,
know what is rooted there.
well, it brings an awareness, but awareness brings objectivity, which kind of lets you step out of the emotional reaction to it into a space where you can kind of observe it as an outsider almost.
Mhm.
And that kind of allows you to bring in more compassion then too.
Yeah, it's like this is how I'm seeing the reality, but I understand how you are seeing the reality. Ah, okay, that makes sense. Now I
Yeah.
understand why you are that way. That's it.
Yes.
And that's all
Yeah.
you don't need to change yourself, but also you kind of widen your vision or your way of perceiving reality, right?
Mhm. Okay. That was a nice little aside. So Taurus in the fifth house with children, passion, and creativity. So they're practical, but they're also extremely patient. So if they have something that they're working on, they don't mind it taking time and they don't mind it taking a while to become the thing that they envision, or they take their time to make the details come out, to really work on all the little facets to make it really beautiful. Um, Dependable. So again, this is with children. They can be very dependable. I always am trying to relate that back to the self and the inner child too. I'd have to think about that a little bit more.
I think you give time for your inner child. You are patient to discover your inner child. You give yourself time to explore that without
Mm-hmm.
rushing it. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's Taurus rule in my fifth house.
Yeah.
And one of the things is it's not that I have a plan, but I created this project of finding myself or rediscovering myself. So, and I understand that it's not a process that I can, you know, get it done in a year, but it's in the direction that I want to move. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, let's little by little rediscover who I am, what matters to me. So it's slow, but very enjoyable too.
Yeah. And I almost get the sense that it's not that they are patient, they or and they that they prefer that something takes its time so that things can really sink in, and so that they can really take in all the details and not just kind of note them, but really, really get to know the details.
Enjoying the process,
Yeah,
enjoying the path, not
yeah,
reaching for the goal, but more like enjoying that process of
yeah,
self-discovery.
yeah. But they do stay on the path. It's not like they get distracted off of it either. So I had the image of like the bull strolling along this well-worn path in the field and smelling the little cornflowers along the way, but not stepping off the path. That's the
Also, it can be like making it a priority. It's really, it's not, you're not in a rush, but you make it a priority.
mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm,
that kind of commitment.
mm-hmm. So, so that comes to the next set of words. We have stable, and we were thinking of passion, but of course they can kind of relate to the other aspects too of creativity in children. So stable, monogamous, and methodical, which I think we were just talking about. I'm just pausing because I'm trying to imagine the methodical, passionate person. But again, they take in all the details, and they like take every last drop of that passion that is there to experience, that kind of idea is what I'm getting. And for creativity, they creative expression will probably be working with the hands.
The senses,
Mhm.
probably not just the hands, but all the senses.
Yeah,
And that's what I mentioned, massages, oils, um, even enjoying the smell of meals and
yes,
everything that activates senses brings you
yeah.
to another world.
I think we probably put in working with the hands because they're also seen as like the builders.
Mhm.
They're the people that will physically be building things,
Yeah,
whether
but it could be like playing with puzzles,
mm-hmm,
coloring, making jewelry, things
mm-hmm,
like that.
mm-hmm. Okay. So Gemini in the fifth house. The Gemini are communicative and they're teachers. So if that relates to their children, um, they'll probably be spending a lot of time talking with their kids and, just explaining things and going on
Reading books.
field trips. Yeah. So with partners or in passion, the way they express themselves, they're fun, they're playful, but they're non-committal. Gemini are the social butterfly of the zodiac wheel. So that shouldn't be a surprise that they don't necessarily want to tie themselves down to one person. I mean, who ties a butterfly down? I mean, really. But again, they're the writers, so that may be their preferred way of creative expression. They're wordsmiths. They love words and communication and thoughts and bringing that and sharing that with other people. So they may be also great public speakers, and teachers again.
Yeah, I'm thinking also social media.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So creativity with social media and spending time in social media.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Cancer in the fifth house. They're protective, devoted parents, but they're also fun. I'm trying to think of the differences because we've used that several times for several signs now. So Gemini are fun and playful because they're kind of lighthearted, but Cancer isn't necessarily lighthearted.
Yeah, but they're devoted to be a parent.
Yes.
So the fun in their life is actually having the children to play with and to be a
Yes.
father or mother. So it's just that kind of fun. It's maybe playing a tea party with the kid,
Yeah.
because they're devoting themselves to the time that they're spending with their family.
So maybe a good word here would have been joy too, because
Yeah.
that really is what brings the joy to their life is their family. I
Mhm.
mean, that's what they're centered on. And when it comes to passionate romance, they're sensitive, but they can also be insecure. So this is the sign that's ruled by the moon. So you have a lot of emotional aspects to Cancer, and they can be very attached. It's interesting, but it
The
makes sense.
the emotional connection.
Yeah.
Probably it's hard for them to just date someone for the sake of dating, because they're
Mhm.
actually looking on that day to create that emotional connection. So maybe they go for the fun, but immediately there is, if there is a spark there, it creates the emotional connection and therefore the attachment.
Mhm. And then for their creativity, it'll be expressed in their home, right? Because their domestic environment, their family is the most important thing. Arts and crafts for the kids, or just creating a cozy, comfortable home with warm cookies in the oven. And, it's just a place that everyone wants to gather. Anything else you want to add for Cancer?
No, I think we have a lot of word for Cancer. We can share
Yeah.
that idea. Yeah.
So Leo is in red here because Leo, again, is the sign that governs the fifth house naturally. Leo is proud and fun and loving. It's interesting to put proud with children, but they're proud of their kids, right? And they're proud of the things that they accomplish. And maybe they even take pride in being the parent of these children. They're very loving too, Leos. So for all that they want recognition and they want to shine and to be the one that's shining in the room, they are generous and loving as well. Um, when it comes to relationships, they're passionate, they're generous. Here we see that word again, and they need adoration. Remember, Leos, it's not one way, but they really want to know that they are loved and that they are seen and that they are wanted and admired. So that makes total sense for me. I have to admit, I'm a Leo and I don't relate a lot to this. Um, I do in some aspects, but not in all of them. And for creativity, being dramatic, that is so not me. But I can see how a Leo would be that way. Um, just wanting to make big productions, and it's not just a simple painting; it's just a beyond everything in all painting. Or
I'm wondering if with Leo you do want recognition for what you create.
yes, that's how I do relate to that, and I do in my relationships too. I don't I am very quiet when it comes to social groups, but in the home I'm not so much. uh, so I do relate in that way. um, and I don't know, as a parent, it's hard to say how we were just talking about this. So when you talk about a parent in this house, and it's from your own perspective. So it's hard for me to say whether I was a fun parent.
Mhm.
Um, but I definitely am a loving parent, and I'm quietly proud. I'm not, an overtly constant bragging about my kids kind of proud, but I'm proud and I let them know. So, all right, Virgo in the fifth house. With their children, they can be maybe a little bit critical. Remember, Virgos are the ones that are very exacting. They're very detailed. It can be OCD. So this shouldn't be too surprising that they might be a little bit critical with their children or with their inner child, or demanding, but they're also very organized. And we didn't put in here, but they are also kind of a caretaking, nurturing sign as well. So that can also be an aspect that we should draw into what the Virgo is with their children as a parent. Anything you want to add?
I think they are the parents that are prepared for everything and that
Mhm,
they have a plan and a backup plan for everything. So
mhm.
everything that is needed, they have it ready to go. And there is a system in that home, and everybody knows where things are and the timing of things. And um, it might be a very comfortable place for a kid to be in, just because you can count on your parents. Yeah, your parents might be a little bit strict, and expecting you to also be organized, and that can be a little bit, I don't know, stressful for the kid, but also the kid knows that can count on their parents, on
Yeah.
her parents. and the parents are always there, ready to help and ready to provide um, with whatever is needed.
Yeah. And if they're the type that needs to know all the details and have all the details planned out, then it also makes sense that they might seem critical and demanding because they'll want to know their kids' schedules. They'll want to know what time their kids are going to be home, where they're going, who they're going to be with, all the stops along the way. And those kinds of things can come across as very demanding and critical. But it's coming from an inner need to have things that way.
Yeah, I think also depend of the energy of the child, right? Because if your parent has a strong Virgo energy, but you have a strong Virgo in your natal chart, that might be like a perfect match. And I
Mm-hmm.
think with all the other signs, it all depends. This is how you are as a parent, but also you have a family, and each of them have their own natal chart.
Mm-hmm.
So some might be super aligned and feel very comfortable with the way you are as a parent, while others will become a rebel just because they do not agree with you for any sign.
Mm-hmm. All right. So when it comes to passion and romance, they can be maybe overthinkers, but they're also very practical. And then with creativity, they're the organizers. So again, remember we talked about creativity can take any expression. So, maybe you have a super organized pantry, a super organized home. You have a great planner for work and your daily schedule. You organize your family around events, and you can bring together the holidays, and everything flows just right because you've got everyone bringing whatever hors d'oeuvres need to be brought, and you've got all the things in your home that you need to create the environment for these
Yeah,
holidays.
and also very creative with diets, with
Mhm.
exercising, with like a perfect, coach or
Mhm.
something that's what you want to give to the world, or the perfect organization system and routines and structure that you have, share it with the world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You need a plan. They're the person that you want to go to. All right, Libra in the fifth house with children. They're fair, they're balanced. Remember, Libra is the scale. So, and they have a strong bond with, we put one child because Libra, the sign in the house that it governs, is about one-on-one relationships. But I'm wondering too if they have more than one child, it just means maybe they like to bond in one-on-one kind of
That's what
situation.
I think that's what we thought when we put this
Yeah,
together, is
yeah,
it's like focusing on one at a time, but
yeah,
creating that strong connection with each of them.
yes,
It's just that when there is time to be with one, you are totally focused with one kid, and then you shift and it's now 100% focused with the other one.
yes.
And when you are in that connection, the other person is all what matters. Your kid, what the kid have to say, you are 100% focused on that conversation.
Mhm. And remember, they're fair and balanced, so they're also make an effort to make sure that each child gets the same amount of attention, that it's not out of balance that way. In romance and passion, Libra is one of the most romantic signs, and they're also very committed in their emotional connections. So again, this is another one that may not be so comfortable with dating multiple people at one time. They probably don't want to be doing that. So they might not be as lighthearted and playful when it comes to those early relationships. And Libras are creatively, they're very artistic. So they can create really beautiful things in their life and their surroundings. Yeah. Do you want to add anything?
Well, I was actually thinking that if you are starting a relationship and you are at the beginning of that dating time with someone, figuring that person's fifth house can be of a lot of help. To do a
Yeah.
little bit of manipulation and see, oh, this is what that person likes. And even if it's not natural to you, that you can play that game for a little while to see if it goes well.
So you have to take that opening line from what's your sun sign to I need your birth date, place, and time.
Exactly.
You can get their chart.
That is scary for the other person at all, right? What was your date of birth
What?
and your time and where? Exactly where?
Okay, Scorpio in the fifth house. With children, they can seem or come across as overpowering, but also as empowering. Um, for passion or in relationships, they can come across as secretive because remember, Scorpios don't like to share. They're not open books by any means. And they can become fixated. So again, there is always with Scorpio this need for control. So um, it can seem maybe to the other person like there's a fixation there, or there's it's not well balanced. And again, the secretive as well. They don't share everything about themselves. So
It takes a little while for Scorpio to open and allow others to enter their world.
yeah,
So it might not be everything obvious at the first time.
yeah,
It might take a little longer on letting you in.
yeah. I almost get the feeling too, like I'm hearing the word tests. So there might be these tests that you're not even aware of that they're putting out there, where they're testing the waters or they're testing to see where you're at or who you are and getting to know you in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And creatively, Scorpios are very psychic. So that's an interesting word to put with creativity. But maybe it's bringing through. So, with the art, the words that they use, or the things that they create, there's always this undercurrent, also this psychic kind of energy that is connected to bring through, but also when it's conveyed across there's layers of meaning to Scorpio. So I would think with their creativity, it's the same thing.
Yeah, you know what I'm thinking with creativity? You know, when you go to see that artwork that is very hard to understand and maybe a little bit dark, but
Mm-hmm,
so much passion and it activates something in you,
mm-hmm,
maybe that kind of creativity, right? Or a fashion show where everything is black and weird and mysterious. That I see more like a Scorpio way of expressing art and creativity.
I want to say too that it may also be like gender bending, or it may be contradictory.
And confrontative.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, not afraid. Probably they don't care about fitting in a system or being playing normal to be safe. Probably they just want to go for what is truth and profound and intense.
Also things that will trigger people, because
Mm-hmm.
Scorpios really like, it's that testing the waters again. So confrontational, like you said, but also because they want to observe, they want to see what's going on, how people react to things. So their art isn't going to be something, or their creative expression, that maybe people will want to hang on the wall because it's meant to elicit response
Mm-hmm.
in the other person, and not necessarily like a "ooh, that's so beautiful" kind of response. All right. Sagittarius in the fifth house. With children, they're inspirational, they're playful, and they like to explore new things and new places and new ideas. With their relationships, they are the players and the risk takers. So what was, oh, exaggeration was the word that kept coming up with Sagittarius. Um, so that's it, that idea, like, they like to experience lots of things and lots of new things, and um, maybe in a little bit of grandiose kind of way. So it kind of makes sense that they would be the players of the astrological charts.
Yeah, maybe over promising things or thinking, oh, this is gonna go this way, and then after a while, it's like, yeah, the spark is not there anymore and it's changing.
But I think that can also then play into how they are creative
Mhm.
people too, right? Because I'm wondering if they'll have these like grandiose, big plans, like this idea in their head of what they want to create, but maybe have a hard time actually creating it to fruition.
Mhm.
And it says that their thinkers here. So in their creative expression, it may be very intellectual, or it may be in aspects that address themes that are intellectual, like religion and philosophy and that kind of society and history and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm thinking also for creativity, the idea of connecting cultures,
Mm-hmm.
other lands and creating with, I don't know, if you like to cook, finding what is, tradition in another countries and playing a lot with, like making the world one thing for everybody.
Yeah. And it's definitely the sharing of ideas and those experiences, right? And I think that can tie back to that idea that they're inspirational. So they're not just inspirational for the children, or if their inner child is inspired by these experiences and going to new places and new things, but that's also part of their creative expression, is that whatever they experience that's new, they bring back, they share, and it inspires the people they share it with.
I'm thinking that as a child, it's gotta be difficult for them to accept boundaries and rules.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking a child with, or having Sagittarius in your fifth house, as a child, you want to explore and you want to have freedom. And if you have parents that like to set boundaries very clear, you might be a little bit confrontational with them.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. We'll come back because for me, Aquarius speaks to that too.
Okay.
So Capricorn with children, they're very old school when it comes to how they parent and how maybe they care for their inner child. So
Very
um,
traditional.
traditional, conservative, right? Um, Conservative, cautious, and traditional come up for how they are in their relationships too, and in their passion and romance. And then their creativity, a lot of them may express it through their actual careers and the work that they do.
Yeah, thinking that even if it's creativity, they might take it seriously. Even if it's like playful time or time to play, still they might want to have a purpose, expecting something, wanting to see the fruits of what they're doing and what they're doing with their time. I
Mhm.
find it hard to see a Capricorn just playing or having no goal in how they invest their time.
And also, so for me, what I'm thinking too is that there's a lot of diligence. Like there'll be like an 8 hour work day to put together whatever. So there's like this work ethic that they kind of apply to all aspects of their life.
Mhm.
So with Aquarius, when it comes to how they parent or how they are with their children, they can be unusual and open-minded. So there may be a lot of freedom for the children of Aquarius parents. In their passion or in relationships, they seek equality, but they also can be very non-traditional in the way they approach relationships or casual sex. And they are the innovators. So their creativity is out of the box, out of this world, something that other people are
Futuristic.
not doing. Yeah, something brand new.
Mhm.
And for me, this energy speaks to not wanting to be constrained by tradition, and like with Capricorn or with Sagittarius, where you were saying that they are the freedom
Mhm.
seekers, and they are. But for me, an Aquarius would just be real, like completely aggravated and annoyed and rubbed the wrong way by a parent who was constantly trying to put them in the system and put them in the box. And these are the rules. You have to stay within these rules. These are the 5 crayons you have. You can't use that, or you can't melt them down and create a new crayon. Like that kind of thing would probably really, really frustrate them.
Mhm.
All right. And for the last sign, we have Pisces. With children, Pisces are self-sacrificing. They really have no boundaries. So it's kind of like they would do anything for their kids.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that sounds beautiful, but there is also with Pisces that idea of confusion. So it might be it could be hard for the child to identify where the rules are, where
Yeah.
the limits, the boundaries, who says what. There is a kind of mystery too, how to identify exactly what's happening. So as a parent, you might not be very clear to how you work on your relationship with your kids.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like there is no distinction. Like, are you my mom or are we best friends? Or like all right. So in passion and in relationships, Pisces like to bring in fantasy and they're very romantic. So remember, this is the sign of universal love, right? So it shouldn't be surprising. Um, and creatively, they're very imaginative. So I'm thinking like imaginary worlds, imaginary friends, fiction, romance books, that kind of dreamy, ethereal kind of fantasy land.
Yeah, also for creativity, it could be also related to meditation, to out of body experiences, so everything that connects you with non-physical dimensions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, and
So,
I'm thinking that part of understanding this, and we always bring light and shadow, is because we are not defined by the zodiac sign. Those are the kind of the colors that we are playing with. So if you find yourself being a Pisces parent, and maybe you can connect with this definition of, well, maybe I'm not setting boundaries very clear, and if you see that happening in your life, it's something that you can change, you can adjust. You're not defined by Pisces. It's not how you have to be. Same with any other zodiac sign. If you are an Aries in the fifth house, you can decide, okay, I'm not going to be so impatient. I'm going to start working with my patient and shift that. So the
mhm,
idea what we are sharing all these definitions is for you to find where you are and see if it works for you, keep it. And if it doesn't work, you are free to make adjustments.
mhm, mhm. Okay, so this was the fifth house. If you've watched all the way to the end, thank you very much. You can subscribe and follow both of our channels where we will be posting more videos and covering the rest of the houses in the next month or so. We also have videos about all of the signs, about reading the chart. If you're not sure how to find your houses on your chart, or even how to find your chart, we have help with all of that. So just go look back through our playlists to find that. And always join us on Facebook and our Facebook group, Soul Astrology with Christine and Laura, where we share little updates and current energies and answer questions and all kinds of fun things, and just are creating a community for everyone who's interested in astrology and learning about it.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you, everyone. See you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.